Hey, welcome to Materials Exchange, Lunch with Lumberman Live with Matt Lehman, myself, Ashley Buckle, Chief Revenue Officer, Materials Exchange, mxlumber.com, Materials Exchange. We are the digital solution, the only digital way to buy and sell lumber. Come match. We move the money, we move the product to you. You can get a solution with the price all into you as a buyer and the price FOB your location as a seller. If you just come on and use us for information and find a way to match, we'll be happy. So come to mxlumber.com and we'll get you registered today. So Matt and I have been doing this show for over 20 some episodes. We talk about lumber. We're just waiting for some people to stream in. So up in the doodad in the right there, if you could say where you're from, we'll have one person kick it off. See if I know Nick is probably watching here next to me. Let's see where if he could put.
You can sign in. You mean sign in so it looks like a bunch of people are here?
So we had a pretty good show last week, though, Matt. We had a lot of people hit us afterwards and watch it, and I keep getting good feedback on that. So the engagement rate is a total plus. So any questions that you have during this? There we go. I'm here, fellas. Hi from Hong Kong. Chris was always coming in from Hong Kong.
Krista, what time is it in Hong Kong right now?
That's a good question.
The middle of the morning?
BC, Canada.
I know what time it is in BC.
Yeah. We'll wait for Chris to give us the Hong Kong time. And please, by all means, ask any questions. Put them up in there. We want to have a conversation.
Thanks for participating, Nick.
Oh, Joy from Chicago. There's Bob. So interesting market. We'll just start chewing the fat on that one, Mark, or on that one, Matt. The market kind of made a little bounce the last few weeks. I don't know if you listened to our call yesterday. It was interesting. One of the mills came out with an announcement finally last Thursday about taking production off in the third quarter, which is almost over with, and only 5 to 10% production, as opposed to the 30% everybody in the middle of the chain was sending email chains to everybody about. Which
it was going to be indefinitely, 30% indefinitely. Instead, it was 5% for 2 more weeks.
Yeah, so I don't know if there was another announcement coming out or if that was just the way our industry for the last 50 years has been interpreting what they want to interpret to do stuff, right? And look at, I mean, they came out with it was a great statement and it said what they were, but it was certainly different from what we heard it was before they came out with anything, right?
Yeah, and it was, the thing that was interesting about that is there was a speculative realm of the market that acted positively to that. You could see it in the futures market, and the mills got they got frisky for about $20 or $30, but that was it. Like the mill that made the announcement went from 450 to 460, so that was no big shake. They've been at 460 since then, and without selling, and the momentum's dying off. But it's almost like the industry said, "Yeah, production curtailment, big deal." Because my problem is I can't ship my lumber packages because windows are out 40 weeks and I can't get appliances and tubs, and it's just the whole process is clogged in other than lumber kind of items. And that's not going away. That seems like it's getting worse. I'm really getting concerned long term about what that's going to mean for lumber's ability to hang on to its value. If it's just, because everybody, I do a drive by once a month. I hit about half a dozen home centers, half a dozen lumber yards, half a dozen truss manufacturers. And the only thing that I saw in short supply was treated lumber at Lowe's. They're working through it, but they're not replenishing it. One of the treaters that I talked to that supplies them said they're trying to express to Lowe's that they're overdoing it, that they're getting too lean, but it seems like they're overreacting from being too heavy to going to too light. But
yeah.
I don't know if that's the case or not. I think they're onto something. I think they're aware of the bottleneck that's in the pipeline that's got completions kind of muted.
Well, let's think about this. So we sold off pretty heavily up until about 2 weeks ago on most species. And then we had a little bounce, actually quite a bit off of some of the low trades. If you look at some of the spruce items like 2x4 16s, 2x4 9-foot studs, and it seems like a big chunk of them were bought off by secondaries that are stuffing them into more warehouses, right? And some people are also shipping some stuff direct, no doubt about it. And the other good thing I heard from a couple really reliable sources, that some of the big home centers that didn't really participate for June, July, and August had one of their biggest pulls from some programs. When I say biggest, they were finally back in the market in the last 2 weeks, where in some cases they weren't in very heavy at all. So that was good, right?
It seemed like a whiplash kind of thing, but really it was just doing something normal after having done something really abnormal again.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people were really pushing for this. We're going to have another big move again. I think, as Matt Beamer said the other day, we're more normalizing. I don't think we're going to see any great big moves. I know people want to see great big moves again, but most of the industry is worn out from that. I mean, they I've talked to a handful of people now, and I know that, hey, like, the guy that says it all the time, Matt, like, volatility is the mother's milk of the industry, of the traders, right? And that's Greg, right? So so anybody that's long something, I would love to have the price go up a bit. Anybody that's managing a business would love for the prices to be a little bit more steady and less volatile. So I certainly think people are trying to navigate that. So one thing we talked about yesterday, you and I talked about it too a lot. So there was a big move up. You and I have some mutual acquaintances we talked to. Last year they weren't normal buyer. They probably bought more job site stuff. Now they have warehouses full of things, right?
Yeah.
And quite a bit of stuff in them, and looking for more warehouse space. So that's kind of what we call the phantom inventory, and that doesn't make a lot of people happy because it's hard to judge what is there. Non-traditional buyers and the historics of buying that are now being able to accumulate volume when they used to not do that. They used to pass that to somebody else to do for them, but now they're buying.
Yeah, so that means somebody in that chain between the builder and the mill is getting cut out of the loop.
Right.
So somebody, it's going to be good for the builder or whoever's got the wood, the multifamily guy or whoever's going to be the developer, to cut somebody out of the loop. But that means that somebody that plans on handling lumber between now and January is going to get cut out of the picture.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We've had people from Las Vegas, from Dallas, from Denver, from Houston, Atlanta, Jacksonville. These are all big buyers that didn't know how to buy into reloads, and so we're trying to launch it at the BCMC coming up in Omaha, which you and I'll both be at, right?
Yep.
We're going to try to announce the Materials Exchange certified reload program, where we let people buy into certified reloads that didn't have the opportunity to do that before. And I think you and I have been talking about that for a while. We're hopefully buttoning up some stuff on it so we can do it.
We're probably not going to be real popular for doing that either, but just so you'll know. But
yeah, that's all right.
It's one of those things that one of the changes the industry is going through is through the education process. The guys that were using 3 people to handle their lumber realized that they just had another couple of people tacking on 8 to 10% just to handle some paperwork that wasn't necessary. And it's going to.
We think it adds value, so we're happy with it. Another thing that I've noticed, and you and I talked about it before this. There is some good wood flowing. There is a lot more stuff listed on the exchange. I'm hearing, and in one case, I've seen it. And maybe this is just me. I've seen some older wood showing up at some places now.
I saw some stuff on my drive around yesterday on the guy's yard that was stacked. It was really stacked very high. The top 3 or 4 bundles had obviously been there for a while. So I figured, well, if the top bundles are getting weathered, the ones under the bottom of it had been there just as long. So it looked like lumber that had been on the yard for several months.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had I've seen some stuff show up some places that half the stuff looked good and half it looked like it had been sitting for a long time. So I'm hoping. So what we're going to do is make sure these when people are shipping stuff for us, it's it's like you open up your Budweiser can, it's got the proof of date on it when they produced it, right?
Yeah, if it's got 1989 on it, you know it's going to be nasty.
Unless it's midnight and you're out of beers, you're still going to drink it, right? So we talked about phantom inventory. Let's talk a little bit about your users network. What kind of feedback are you getting? You said iJoist. I heard Rimboard was a big one that's still hard to get. Somebody said if you can find Rimboard or iJoist, let me know. We're looking for that. And actually, this person, I had a quote from him, said we're let's see if I can find this here. We're looking to do more 2x12, 14s, and 16s to engineer away from a lot of those iJoist in the future jobs coming up.
Yeah, and apparently it's really even specified more like 1 1/8 inch seems to be more available than 1.5 inch, and
that's right.
If you can make the transition, but the problem is when you go to second floors, the balcony needs to be full 1.5 inch. So I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said, "Well, a 2x12 is only 1.5 inch thick." So, and she went, "Really? That's how thick a 2x12 is?" She wasn't even aware that was the net thickness. So that might be a good alternative, and that's going to probably be a little booster for 2x12s if it works in some of those applications.
Yeah, Mark Willie is in the house here. I think Mark, you're going to be at the BCMC show also. You and Dave. So we'll hope to see you there. Who else is signing? Dave Roebuck from Salado, Texas. Thanks to see the lumber costs down and continued motivated buyers. Judy Johnson, good to see you, Judy. 10 a.m. BC. Oh, and it was 1 a.m. or 1 o'clock in Hong Kong. Matt, 1:16 now.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that is. So
you can pay attention now. I'm glad you're awake and stay awake for us.
Basis is kind of worked. It looks like the lumber kind of came to meet the September contract. Now everybody's scratching their head and saying, "Hey, November's a big premium. What's going to happen there?" Half of the camp thinks that the lumber prices are going to move up to meet it. Some think that the board's going to come down to meet it. I never know. Maybe a little of both. One thing I do know is there was even more opportunity than that a week ago. But $100 a thousand, you can have a lot of slippage and still make money with that kind of basis, Matt.
I heard a statistic the other day that said that never in the history of the lumber market has the November contract expired above cash.
So say that
again. Never in the history of lumber has the November lumber futures contract expired higher than cash.
Yeah,
and
so
right now it's $125 above it.
Yeah, and historically, when it did have a premium, it was very slight premium to the September contract, and that's why that got so. But that knocked a lot of people off sides that had bought that spread at $60 or $70, thinking that they were going to hit a home run, right? And
it went to 200.
Just kept moving, but I mean, who would have known, right? So
another thing to consider too is like October is typically a liquidation month in the lumber industry where people are getting rid of whatever they've got for the winter coming and trying to reduce inventories for year-end taxes and that kind of thing. And historically, October is a down month. So whatever happens in November's expiration, we've got October to go through, which is the time when the market is historically weak. So the long-term thinking that the mills are going to have some downtime and curtailment production that's going to influence the market and tend to make the market go higher is probably going to happen, but it doesn't right now. There doesn't seem to be any urgency because they're selling enough to hold on to what they've got. But eventually, that bottleneck of completions is going to take over. We're still clipping along a building pace that starts pace at 1.6, 1.7 million, and completing at 1.3 million. So there's a bunch of wood that's hanging out there that's just not going to get used. It's not right away.
It's funny. I watch a couple other streams on here with economists and a few other people. They're just starting to catch up to this right now. I saw one that streamed the other day about how, hey, there's a shortage of some other things out there, and there may not be as many completions. And we've been talking about this for 3 months, 4 months, hell, longer.
I got kind of a pet peeve about internet stuff too. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's too many people that have become internet sensations or lumber experts via Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, that all of a sudden that they've got an audience, because it just shows you how many people in the world and the population didn't know jack about lumber. So you can tell them just a little bit, and it seems to make you an expert. But for you guys that are here, for example, you just got to be really careful about where you get your information. And we talked about this before. People talking their positions. If they're talking bullish on the market, do they have a position that they need the market? They want the market to go up because they've already bought, or they're needed to go down because they're short. It's not an oversight that you should take for granted, but you should always be aware of, like, what's the
or just ask them. Say, what is your position? I mean, are you long or short? Right? I mean, it's easy to ask people that, and hedged is unacceptable. Because
that means you don't know your way.
Everybody's net long or net short.
Blind.
Hey, Christopher, good to see you. We'll see you at the BCMC also. And let us know over in the comments section what you'll be doing there, and love to know so we can hook some more people up at that. Hey, let's bring up the 2x4 composite chart, Matt, so we can take a look at that on your guide. And kind of still bouncing along a little bit here. What anything new we should look at here?
Well, I think if you look at, I kind of redid the graph here.
I was going to say you changed this up on us.
Yeah, I did change it up. So it kind of shows more where the FTPs lie and where the market's actually done. So it shows you can see by the ups and downs of the graphs where it's really been very accurate. And the forecast for right now is like we got a little bump up until for another couple of weeks. It's just a seasonal fill in through September, and then October falls off with a buying opportunity, and not necessarily a low or the low for the year, but the best uptrend is from November through the end of February.
Okay.
So that's just a function of people getting underbought in the middle of the winter and just kind of trickle on. It's also where the production is the lightest period of the year too. So, and some guys that are up north along the Wisconsin and Michigan borders talk about the best time of their year is October and November, because people are really busting it to get things done before it gets really, really cold. So even though the weather's changing, you're really slamming it. So there's business does not go away as the winter starts. You get an accumulation of inventory on the buy side, and on the builder side to scramble to get things done before the snow flies.
Hey, I like this. I like this new chart, Matt. Let's go over to the next one. I think is it Southern Yellow Pine we want to take a look at, Nick, to take a look at what's going on there. So Matt, I'm still seeing we matched some stuff up today. Really good deals on wides still, 2x10 and 2x12. Number two and number one, 4-inch seems to be the 4-inch seems to still be kind of one of the big movers. Does that make sense? You know more about Southern Pine.
Yeah, that's just two things there. One is 2x10s and 2x12s bought this time of year in October. So if you can buy those things in the 300s, you should load them up and hold on to them, because it's hard to log 2x10s. They're the wide logs in the summer. I mean, in the winter in the South. So they typically get a little harder to come by. So prices may not go crazy, but the availability of 2x10s and 2x12s, particularly 2x12s, now that EWP is kind of tough to come by, using for headers and rim board as well, it's going to get scarce. But the reason 2x4s are strong is it's just truss manufacturers. The EWP has got so many floor truss plants booked out 12, 15, 16 weeks. And those guys they've got more orders, and they're still basically, truss manufacturers are basically short the market still. They've got order files beyond their ability to carry lumber. So the pressure is still going to be on 2x4s to continue to go up, I think, for another few weeks.
And just for Southern Pine, this is what I grew up being used to, forward selling it a lot in my past lives. 2x4 and 2x6 doesn't store real well at reloads. It's okay, but for the most time, if you think about it, Southern Pine mills, everything ships on trucks within about a 200-mile radius of a mill, right? And so every time you put 4-inch on the ground or 6-inch on the ground, you're adding another 20, 40, hell, 50 or 80 in today's market, right? But as Matt said, with 2x10 and 2x12, a lot of basis traders put that on the ground. I was going to pull the basis chart up when we're done with this. Think about how low price 2x10 and 2x12 is relative to the November and January contract right now. That's stuff that's
Absolutely.
wide enough that you can put on the ground because it's stable, lasts a long time, and you can hedge it right now, right? I mean, it's probably. I'm going to guess until I look at the chart. I'm going to guess that's probably got some spectacular hedge on it right now. If you wanted to really look at it,
I think you just don't even need to hedge it and being short the futures. I mean, it's a good hedge, but just putting $300 2x10s and 2x12s in storage or on your yard is historically a good bet. Any 350 or so, but I think just anything I've been saying it for weeks. Anything in the 300s is going to be a good deal come first of the year.
And anything between that's the difference between absolute and relative value. It's absolute value seems pretty decent. So pine, Matt, it looks like this chart looks a little flat to me. What am I missing?
It's really just thinking it's just reflective of 2x4s, but actually it's the southern pine market has really been flat. It's really just gone nowhere other than 2x4s. But there's just enough production and order files are out such a long distance that everybody that needs southern pine has got it bought. So they're just replacing what they're shipping. And this is a reflection of the job site shipments kind of slowing down a little bit as well, because truss manufacturers would love to be able to ship what they've got bought and the orders that they have, but it's just a slowdown on the builder's part, just delaying until you got the EWP and I got my windows and my tubs and my toilets and my appliances. I just can't take delivery and it's slowing down. There was Pulte had a thing out yesterday, said that because of their delays and their other than lumber kind of items, basically it was slowing their forecast for their fourth quarter closings was going to be lower, and that's not exclusive to just Pulte. That's just Pulte just saying how it is for everybody. Basically, that's it.
Yep, toilets. But bidets are hard to come by right now too. I heard those are on back order.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you got yours in yet, but there's foot washers, right?
Yeah, exactly. Kirk Miller, good to see you. Christopher, looking forward to seeing you at the Framer Summit. Yeah, we're going to the Framer Summit also. Matter of fact, a lot of the framers are ones that have asked us about the Reload program, so we're looking forward to seeing you there.
And also on the Framer Summit, we're going to have a panel. I'm going to be on a panel on Monday that's going to talk about the lumber market. So if you guys are there, make sure to tune in for that. That's going to be
man, I'm going to have some great questions to ask you from the audience, Matt.
Attaboy. Appreciate this.
Let's go to the next chart, Nick. Which one we got that we want to bring up? Let's look at Canadian SPF. Hey, Chum, how are you doing? Canadian SPF. Looks like we're kind of trying to make that little turn up out of the bottom. So that looks a little promising. Matt, what say you on that one?
Yeah, it looks promising, but the stuff's not moving. These guys are, ever since the announcement from the big boy that they were going to curtail that 30%, the market has just not responded. It's got some feeling. People are buying lower prices just because as they get rid of their higher price stuff, they're buying just enough to keep their average inventory, lower their average cost, but it's keeping the yards full. And coming up on week number 37, 38, this week it should be a high. I think we've got coming up a time where the mills are going to have to get aggressive and try to sell some wood because their yards are stacked up. The reloads are full. Contractor yards are full. There's just not a lot of places to put it, so there's going to be some pressure. We're gonna probably hear more talk about and actually some more curtailments that come to pass, but still, just no reason to overreact about it. If your yard's full and the mill says you're going to curtail production, there's no reason to just load it up because you think you're going to be short. You still got to sell what you have. So if your yards are full, there's no reason to buy it. If your yards are not full, you might want to try to think about picking off some of these numbers before they instill the curtailments. But I still believe that we've got October is going to be a weak month for lumber market.
So I got some feedback from some people and I read some stuff on some of these online some of the social media. People are saying, oh, you should buy some stuff because mills are out to September order files now. And this was on spruce and some other things, right? I mean, I don't know, but I still see things pop up every day from different people. So are mills out to September on stuff? I'm certain items I'm sure they are.
Yeah, what's the date today?
It's November 16th, so I guess that'd be 2 weeks or sooner, right?
So September 16th. So if you got an order file out in September, you got no order file.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you got it, but you got to really clarify when a mill says that they make sure they're not talking about shipment and order file. It's a different thing. Shipment mills have been able to get away for all year long with a 3 and 4 week ship date without having an order file to match it up. So mills do not have a 2 week order file. It's just plain and simple. They may have 2 week ship date, but they don't have order files. And you can ask anybody out there. Everybody that I ask, how's your inventory? Is your inventory light or heavy? And nobody tells me that they're light on inventory and that they need to buy.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Let's go to the next chart, OSB. One thing I did hear about OSB the other day, one of my buddies down in the South was telling me that, can you pull it up a little? There we go. He was telling me that some of the big mills have told them that they're going to ship to a heavier allocation of making specialty. And my response was, I used to know people that raised a lot of organic corn because it carried a bigger premium until all the neighbors started making organic corn, and now it's a commodity, right?
Yeah, same thing with pot in Montana. Yeah, it was a good way to make a living until they legalized it. Everybody's doing it right now.
That's great. Oh, now all the pickups going down the road in Montana have a bale of it in the back of them.
Yeah, everybody's got a cash you can't do anything with.
Let's go framing package index.
It basically is to show you that things are kind of flattening out, and the good thing about that, it just kind of shows you that where we've come from and where we are, and it's good news for builders going forward. For the next couple of months, they can expect to have much lower prices on their framing package than they had in the last several months, and the framing packages are going to be about $50,000 cheaper now than they were in May for a 2,200 square foot house. So these guys got money to give. The builders
is that being realized at the builders level yet?
Yeah, it will be, particularly coming up in October. Their lumber locks in October are going to be much less than they were in May, and they'll be able to. The builders are starting to talk about some price rejection, and I'm kind of thinking that price rejection is just coming not because of the price of homes, which have not really come down with any at all as price of lumber's come down, and there really may be some legitimate price rejection. But the industry, the public that's watched lumber prices go sky high is also where the lumber prices have fallen through the floor, and they're just expecting that they're owed something back. So I think the price rejection is just a pushback to say, give me some of that lumber package back, and they've got it to give, so they probably will.
Now look, there were some great trades that happened over the last 2 weeks, and there were some great. I think again we iterate that the difference between what the print price is and what the actual price traded at. So the actual price, the real price, where the low big blocks of 2x4, 104 and 5/8 were traded, 2x4, 16 footers and spruce, and where it is today, some of these items from the low have moved over $100 $1,000. That's a big move, right? So
yeah.
prices have made a big move up from their low real trade price, right? And so there have been some big moves, but I think that's because people took risks buying there, and they were able to put volume on and buy some stuff. So now we'll see how that trickles into the market. So there's some people that made some really good buys over the last few weeks we'll see how it works selling things into the market.
Yep.
So I think we're up against our half an hour. That was pretty good. We'll continue next Thursday, Matt, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit before the BCMC show of how people can chat with you out there, with me out there, and.
Yeah, I'm going to be in a booth with Todd Drummond and Tony Missoura and a couple other guys. We got a little network of consulting things going on together. So we're going to be on a corner somewhere. So we're going to have a little thing where I think you stop in and have like a drive-through instant lumber fix kind of thing, or whatever your problems might be for your business. So pop in and see it.
Todd always wears that cool hat. I always know where his booth is at.
Yeah, you can't miss him.
Yeah, good guy. All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Matt. Everybody have a good one.
Thanks, guys, for coming.
Bye.